The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
I think of no finer man when I say, please say good morning. And welcome back to 710 KNUS, MD, Dr. Terry Laken. First of all, Dr. Laken, good morning and thank you as always, and God bless you, and welcome back to the radio show.
Well, good morning, Peter. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Also, the man with a plan, Jack Cascio, is with us. Hey, Jack, good morning. Welcome back as well.
Hey, Peter, Terry, good morning to you guys, too.
Yeah, for everybody on our website this morning, is that up already on Terry's book and Jack's book? Okay, go to the website, 710knus.com, and you'll see the book that now that's out on the life of Terry Laken. Hey, Jack, before we begin, the book is entitled Soldier's Oath, the Terry Laken Story of Sacrifice. Tell Terry's story. Would you tell Dr. Laken's story?
Well, it's actually called Officer's Oath, unless they change the title.
I apologize. I said Soldier's Oath. I apologize.
I know. You're close. In some ways, Terry could tell the story better than I, but we had the opportunity to work together on it, and it's a really compelling story. Basically, Terry was like being sent on to his second deployment in Afghanistan as a flight surgeon, which he was happy to do, despite the fact that he had several children at home, when they asked to see 5 copies of his birth certificate. And at that time, just in a nutshell, Terry said, why am I being asked to show 5 copies of my birth certificate when the man who's sending me, this was part of the surge in Afghanistan, has never shown his. In fact, not only has he not shown his, but he spent millions of dollars to avoid showing his. And that began Terry's odyssey through the military's criminal justice system, which resulted in a 5-month stay at the stockade at Leavenworth.
Terry, Dr. Laken, pardon me, what triggered you? I know the request when you were being sent overseas to see 5 copies of your birth certificate, but what was in the back of your thinking when you decided to have a showdown with the president?
Well, Peter, it had developed probably over at least 2 years. I had a good position or a good job up in Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and I knew I was up for deployment soon, and I was actually looking to go back to Afghanistan with my unit that I went with in 2004, and I was actually volunteering for that. I talked with the division surgeon and was going to be a by-name request, and then when Obama actually got elected, I pulled back my name. I said, I don't know who this guy is. I am not going to volunteer to deploy under this person. And I began writing letters to my congressmen, and through my chain of command, I tried to do inquiries as to have my chain of command please tell me that this man is eligible to hold the office that he is, to be our commander-in-chief. And the answers that I got from 2 years of letter writing and 2 years of talking to commanders and congressmen just made me even more astounded that no one could answer the question.
When you would speak to a superior officer, would they oftentimes agree with you that the guy didn't present his credentials or his bona fides, or did they blow you off?
A little of both. I talked to so many people. I had one a general's lawyer tell me, don't question this because people have car accidents or disappear. and another, several others were just scared, saying, don't do this. It's not worth it. And when I went to some congressional members and senior staffers, and they looked me in the eye and said that they have flag officers that lie to them and that I should not do this. Or the other great one that just stuck in my mind was senior staffers telling me that they knew something was wrong, but the media would not grab a hold of it, so they didn't know what to do. And these are the people that are sending our troops overseas.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't be a part of that.
I personally have had as high ranking as a U.S. Senator tell me in a private conversation these words. everybody knows the story's not straight.
And
Everyone knows this. We're talking about the president's life story. Everyone knows the story's not straight. That was told to me by a high-ranking Republican senator. I always promised I would never do the name, and I won't do it. But I'm going to jump back to Jack. Jack, everybody knows the story's not straight, right?
Right, and you saw what happened when Rudy Giuliani just hinted at it, the lack of straightness.
Or
Trump.
Trump.
He was treated like the Antichrist.
Or Trump.
Or Donald Trump, right. Are they crazy? Are they losing their minds? How dare he say that? And yet, when I have conversations, I mean, just a thing. I was speaking to a Tea Party group in Florida last month, and I said to them, I just asked them, I said, where did Barack Obama spend the first year of his life? And even there, they couldn't tell me,
Well, they don't know.
So, I mean, he spent it in the state of Washington.
That's right.
In Seattle area. I mean, you and I and Terry know this. There's a lot of people on the right who know this. If I say this to someone on the left, they look at me like I'm absolutely bonkers, like I'm making this up, like I'm some part of a great conspiracy. That's how little we know, literally. We know more about the birth of Jesus Christ than we do about the birth of Barack Obama. We know more about the birth of the first few years of George Washington's life than we know about Barack Obama's. That's crazy.
Rutherford Hayes.
Yeah, Rutherford B. Hayes. I've been to Rutherford B. Hayes' boyhood home. I've never been to Obama's.
You can't, what, because it doesn't exist.
Right. I literally have been to Rutherford B. Hayes' boyhood home, by the way. It's in Ohio.
Wow.
Very nice place.
Yeah, no, Rutherford was, but again, we know more about Rutherford B. Hayes than we know about Barack Obama. Our guests are, I can always say that knowing Terry Laken was a highlight in my life, and Jack Cashill, and this is a guy who threw the BS flag. What was the moment, Dr. Laken, when you said, okay, I'm going to refuse?
I remember it very well. I mean, I'd been working at the Pentagon clinic for close to a year, and I had questioned this through every way I knew how. I had several months prior, I'd given a letter to General Casey saying, here's my data, please validate that I'm following orders from a legitimate commander-in-chief. And I then came up on orders for the surge to Afghanistan. I had my orders in hand, and I'm actually spending the night in my office doing work and having to make a decision whether I was going to do this or not, and I'm looking at my orders. And I had read my orders so many times, but I just always skipped over it, and all of a sudden it just blared out at me that at the bottom of the page said, bring 5 copies of your birth certificate. And I said, why do I have to do that when my commander-in-chief hasn't done that? And that was the big turning point there.
What happened in the time frame after your refusal?
I was basically given a desk job and taken away from patient care. Didn't take them too long to transfer me from the Pentagon up to a back office at Walter Reed, and I kind of languished there for a couple months as I went through the Article 32 process, where it's just motions back and forth through the judge to try and get discovery, and I was kind of just sheltered away from contact with patients or people, and that was a tough time too. But over time
when you were going through that, was there ever enlisted men or women or other officers who came to you and told you they supported you, or was it one of those moments that everyone's so afraid it's like, and it's obviously not on that same level, but Major Hassan, the workplace violence at Fort Hood, now we know that other doctors and medical personnel that surrounded him knew the kinds of insanity that he was not only he was presenting in PowerPoint presentations to them, but saying these things, and they were all afraid of being called Islamophobes and would not step forward. Did anyone come around you during any of this, Dr. Laken, and say anything supportive?
There were. I had email from colleagues in the past that were in high-ranking positions too, and some of them were very supportive, telling me that somebody's got to do this, and thanks for stepping forward.
Were they GIs?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All sorts of ranks. I received tons of emails, and a couple other people wanted to put a bullet in dog crap and put that in my head if they ever saw me.
Really?
Yes, I had several threats too.
Jack, at this time, comment on Jack Cashel, Dr. Terry Laken. We're talking about the book entitled, it's called Officer's Oath. It's Terry's story of sacrifice, and his writer is Jack Cashel. You can go to our website, 710knus.com, see the pictures as well as order the book. Also, one of the great cat videos of all time we put up this morning as well. It's funny. It's just, I love cats, and it's just a great cat video. So, again, Jack, if you could comment on this time period with Terry.
Yeah, that was the, Terry went through, essentially, and this happens basically to a lot of truth tellers, not any truth teller, to a lot of truth tellers. Terry is about to spend more time in a federal stockade than Bowie Bergdahl will. Just to put that in perspective.
Honest to God, you and I have not spoken, but that dawned on me on Thursday. That Terry Laken did 6 months in Leavenworth. There's no way in God's green earth that Bo Bergdahl is going to do time.
Yeah, and what the military does is they deep six you for a while. For instance, I worked with on the book Ron Brown's Body. I wrote the book, and I talked to Kathleen Janowski, who was the one who blew the whistle on the hole in Ron Brown's head when he came into the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. She was the chief forensic photographer. She and three pathologists went public with their concerns. And what the military did is they put them all in limbo, for some period of time, hoping that they just quit. So they put Kathleen at a desk, for instance, where and not only was she at a desk doing absolutely nothing, but the chair they gave her was like a foot lower than it should have been, so like her chin sat on the top of the counter. Those kind of things, just little humiliating, niggling things. There are obviously a lot of good people in the military, but the people who sometimes find their way to the top of the bureaucracies are the people who are best at following orders. And there's some logic. I know there's wisdom to that to a certain degree, but the lack of discretion in some cases is not admirable. There, at some point, people should be able to say, "Hey, this is wrong. I'm not going to participate in this." But for Terry, that was the limbo. I don't know whether it was worse, the limbo or the actual going to hell, but neither one of them was very good.
So where was your court martial held, Doctor?
It was at Fort Meade, Maryland, and about 20 or 30 minutes away from our home at that time.
How long did it last?
It was 2 days. It was pretty fast since I had no defense and
you weren't allowed.
Nothing to offer. No, it was purely just sitting there and letting the prosecutors
hammer,
call me all sorts of names. And
the court-martial judge is a woman, Colonel Denise Lynn. Jack, what do we know about her?
I don't know that much about her. I really can't answer that question. Maybe I knew at some point but forgot. But I'd have to ask Terry about that. He probably knows better than I.
Doctor, what do we know about her?
She's just a by-the-book judge. She supported everything that the investigating officer recommended for the Article 32, and there were pictures and meetings of Obama talking with her boss, her commander, the one-star general at the time that made 2 stars shortly after my court-martial.
Sure.
That's all speculation, but there's could be some influence there.
Oh, I mean, Jack, you're not shocked, are you?
No, not at all. I mean, that happens in any bureaucracy, and the military is not immune. And I suspect during the 6 years of the Obama presidency, 6+ years, there's been a whole lot of shuffling of those decks to make sure that Obama-friendly superior officers are in place.
You were not allowed what lawyers call discovery. Jack, that means he couldn't introduce evidence. He couldn't bring in experts who could explain the constitutional issues. None of that was...
Right. The constitutional issues were never even on the table. I mean, he wasn't allowed to make that case, basically.
Yeah, I'd be in a lot of trouble if I was that guy in the courtroom. I'd be in trouble. And you had to bite your tongue. I mean, you're in the military. You had to bite your tongue.
Yes. I mean, my whole premise was we could have a break in the chain of command. And, yeah, it's unfortunate it's the very top chain. But the military's stance was that Obama wasn't ordering me by name to deploy to Afghanistan. He was giving authority to, actually, they couldn't even say that. The military command authority was ordering my deployment, and it wasn't coming from Obama somehow. So I was just disobeying orders from the military command authority.
Everybody hang on, please. 303-696-1971. Our website, 710knus.com. I think of no one I have more respect for than Dr. Terry Laken and longtime friend Jack Cashill. And Jack and Terry now have the book on the market, our website, 710knus.com, Officer's Oath, Terry Laken's Story of Sacrifice. Jack, of course, has been a longtime part of our morning show. And I was trying to remember driving to work this morning when I first met Dr. Laken. I remember the morning I physically met him when he came into the studios over at Brand X. But we championed Terry in his decision, and he was just talking about it. But Terry made a decision to, in essence, want to see Barack Obama, what historians call bona fides, don't they, Jack? The credentials.
Right.
And I'll turn it back over to you guys. But the question I have is, all Barack Obama would have had to have done to save this remarkable man, remarkable career, was literally send one of his minions or himself, simply almost walk across the street, present this one document, his 61 copy of his birth certificate, and everything goes away. He could not do it, but they allowed this man and his family to be destroyed. Jack, speak to that, and then we'll go back to Terry.
Yeah, and what's interesting, though, is, and I think there's a sequence of events towards the end of Terry's tenure, if that's the right word, at the stockade at Leavenworth, that suggests that Terry's imprisonment made Obama do certain things. There's several things were happening simultaneously. Jerry Corsi's book was coming out, Where's the Birth Certificate?
Trump.
My book had just come out, Deconstructing Obama. Donald Trump was getting more and more vocal. Terry was about to be released from Fort Leavenworth, would have garnered some attention just on the point you raised, Peter. How is it that we let this guy go to prison just because the president won't show his birth certificate? And then two things happen. We have the birth certificate come out, and I'm not sure which order they were in, but they were almost back-to-back, boom, boom. And Osama bin Laden is killed, right? Bam, bam. I don't think those were unrelated events. I think the timing of the Osama bin Laden thing and the production of the birth certificate were done simultaneously to shift all attention away and to discredit totally, and I can tell you that from my own experience, anyone who is criticizing Obama in any which way.
I agree. I mean, I think that it was concerted, but I also believe when we look at this enormous story of who is Barack Obama, and I've said this, I'm going to come back to Terry about when he was adjudicated, but what's amazing is this story I had a really significant member of the media, a really significant person say to me, Peter, I'm starting to believe you're right. The guy doesn't tell us who he is. This is the guy who did everything they could to deflect or stop anything that had to do with so-called birtherism. Terry, the court lasted 2 days. How quickly did they bring a verdict in on you?
Matter of an hour or two.
Did you pretty much expect it to go that way?
Certainly. I had nothing to offer in my defense, and the demeanor of the court was that I was wrong and I was going to be punished for it.
When they found you guilty, how much time did you have before you began to get transported?
Oh, they gave me 20 minutes to go back and change into my battle dress uniform, and then a colonel came in with 2 sergeants and tore my rank off and shackled me at the wrist and waist and ankles and shuffled me out to a van in the snow, and I was off to a little prison at Walter Reed that it hadn't been used for years, and I spent one night in there. It was freezing cold and wet, and kind of threatened by the civilian guard there, who was. I heard him on the phone telling people that I hadn't been eating, and so he had a size 11 that was going to take care of that if that continued. And then they flew me off to Leavenworth late at night. I got in the van again, and they shuttled me off to Reagan International Airport, and I walked through the airport terminals, shackled, unshaven, and got on an airplane in the back seat and began my stint at Leavenworth.
Jack, a comment here?
Yeah, and in some ways, you got to consider the indignity of all this. There's Terry looking like he's Timothy McVeigh being shuffled through the first Reagan and then Kansas City Airport here, like a common criminal. They didn't have to do any of that. He wasn't going to run away. It was part of the process of just teaching people what happens when you,
of course.
when you confront the authorities.
Sure.
Yeah, I know there's some standardization necessary. I get that, but there's also exceptions that should have been made and ought to have been made.
I always say this when you hear a story. Lenin tells us the purpose of terror is terror. Every other officer, enlisted man or woman in the American military was just taught a lesson by Terry Laken.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly right. Terry's treatment, how his court went down, not being allowed to have discovery, not allow his defense to introduce evidence, none of those things. They were constitutional issues, were never allowed in the courtroom. So it was, in my mind, and I suspect yours, the outcome of that trial was known before the trial began.
Yes, I knew that. I just was afraid of how much time I would serve. I thought I could save the career if I had less than 3 years of time in, but they were trying to throw 7 years at me, and it'd be pretty tough to come out and practice as a physician after that.
Does anyone listening to this radio show think that Bo Bergdahl is going to get the same treatment that Terry Laken was afforded, and better yet, that Bo Bergdahl will do any time at all? Jack?
Well, Bo Bergdahl, we're told, was served with honor and distinction. That'll come as news to the widows of the 8 guys or whoever were killed trying to retrieve them. But no, I think there's an excellent chance he won't serve a day in the stockade. And even now, and you see what they did with Bergdahl, is the issue arises when, last summer sometime, and then they jack around. They knew back then what the findings would be in his case. They had the evidence was obvious, but they waited until people kind of forgot about it and it became less newsworthy, and it's just another one of those things, But in Terry's case, but I will say this, in Terry's case, they didn't want to bring any attention to it. Because to bring attention to it would be to show how one, military doctor was willing to sacrifice his career to get at the truth. So they buried the story. It got essentially no media coverage at all.
None.
Yeah.
No, and like I said, compare and contrast Bergdahl to, once again, to Terry Laken vis-a-vis the media. The media doesn't know anything at all about Terry Laken. Of course they know about Terry Laken, but because I think they will be afforded the same treatment that Terry was afforded. You now become a racist newspaper, a racist newscast. You will become this, you'll become that. All the things, Jack, that you and I have learned, and my God, what Terry learned.
Yeah, in fact, there was a parallel, and I forget the lady's name, but I believe she's a female doctor. This was during Iraq War, and she refused to deploy. And this happened also in Leavenworth. In fact, I think she's from the Kansas City area. And it was like huge positive coverage for her from beginning to end, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
Because that was, Bush was the president then. And,
yeah, no, absolutely.
And the war was evil, and, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. What was it like, Terry, when you got to Leavenworth?
Well, it was, I think, December 22nd, so I spent my Christmas in solitary, essentially. They have a maximum security section where incoming people spend about 2 weeks, where you're 23 hours in the cell and you get 1 hour to come out and play cards or something. So that was my first 2 weeks there, and then they put me into the normal cell block. And that was just the general population there. But coming into the cell block, three of us new guys came in and talked with the sergeant there, and kind of goes down and asks each guy what they were in for, and then he comes to me and he goes, "Oh, everybody knows about you, Laken." And the other two guys looked back at me and said, "What the heck did you do?" But I got in the regular cell block, and there were two people that made a beeline toward me and shook my hand and said, "We were in Special Forces, and we appreciate what you were trying to do." And that was the start of my regular cell block time.
We'll talk. We're going to pause here, put you guys on hold. If you just joined us, the best, Colonel Dr. Terry Laken and Jack Cashill. The book is now out, Officer's Oath, Terry Laken's Story of Sacrifice. Go to the website, 710knus.com. All the pictures are there, as well as how you can order the book. There are no finer men. Dr. Terry Laken, Jack Cashill. The book is out now about Terry Laken's Story of Sacrifice. It's entitled Officer's Oath, and you can order it, take a look at it, 710knus.com, pictures from the book. It's all there. And, of course, Jack is the co-author of this, and I've been a big fan of Jack's forever, where as far as Terry arrives in Leavenworth and goes into population, and people knew why you were there. I mean, Doctor, they knew why you were there. What was the general way that you were treated?
Just with respect, I think there was a lot of soldiers in there there's a lot of wasted talent in there. And I was astonished to learn that the UCMJ process, or the military court-martial process, it's not a justice system. It is a punishment system. I ended up reading record of trials for two people in there, and I could not believe that they were convicted of the crimes that they were accused of. There's a lot of good people in there. There are some crazies. There's some guys that deserve to be in there, but it approaches, I don't know, I would guess 30 or 50% of soldiers should not be in there. And I was in the medium security. I wasn't in the detention barracks, which houses the people that are serving longer than 5 to 7 years.
How did the men and women who are in charge, the people who are corrections, how did they treat you, and what did they say to you?
Nothing out of the ordinary. I think I was a model prisoner, so I didn't call attention to myself or anything. But they take you through a little psychological screening, and the psychiatrist, tried to ridicule me too for what I was in there for. several of the guards that paid, that were on my work detail, understood what I was there for and indicated some type of support or at least some respect for what I did. There, this whole gamut of a population in there, but a lot of wasted talent from the Army in there.
To Jack Cashill, and again, it's almost like Terry goes into Gulag. I mean, he doesn't exist, does he?
Well, and that was the problem in a lot of ways, and I think that was the problem for the Obama administration, is to make sure that this case got no attention at all. And, of course, with the media, you don't really have to twist their arms to make that happen. Now, Terry, was getting attention. If there hadn't been an Internet, no one would have known he was there, period. But, it had that same purpose as the Gulag, and that is removing a troublesome individual from the from the political environment, and then making sure people forget about him.
Well,
and also sending a message to other people, not to misbehave. Now, again, I think Terry would agree is that the military obviously has to have discipline, and that I just as soon as stay within the military. But this should be tempered by mercy at some point and a sense of justice to begin with, and none of this would have had to have happened.
He had to be silenced. And with the exception of a couple of talk radio shows, Terry didn't exist. I mean, I've been plenty of places, and you bring up Terry Laken's name, everybody knows Bo Bergdahl, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, too, is as you know, Peter, and as Terry knows, is that at a certain level in the conservative hierarchy, talk about birth certificate is verboten, because that would allow you to be subject to ridicule by people like Media Matters and whoever else.
Sure.
So thus, even at that level, Terry could not exist. No attention could be paid to him.
Terry, what was it like? What was the last days? Excuse me, because I'm running up on time here. What was it like?
The last days there. It was. I was starting the out process. I had maybe 2 weeks left when we're watching the news, and out comes Obama with his birth certificate.
Yeah.
And there were a couple people standing nearby that said, "Well, what's this mean for you, Laken? It means you're okay then, right?" I'm like, no, it means nothing right now. And it just diverted the attention away from Obama. And, I did return to my family and just wanted to fade away and rebuild my life. But I think it was a conversation with my son's baseball coach who stopped me and said, "You have a story to tell, and you really should at least tell it." And that night I get a call from Jack Cashill, who wanted to tell my story. And just incredible timing, and couldn't have picked a better guy to tell my story.
Well, thank you, Terry. Nor could I have picked a better person whose story to tell. It's a story that needed to be told, and still needs to be told.
And
so we're still waiting for the future major studios to come by and take an option on Terry's life. Yeah.
So if now to jump to Bo Bergdahl, so you got 5 terrorists for 1 deserter, and the treatment afforded Terry versus the treatment that Bo Bergdahl has had since his, quote, return. Now, I don't believe, well, I don't know, Jack, maybe you got a better take on Bergdahl, but Bergdahl, his lawyers, and I've been reading this stuff over the weekend, claimed he was chained to a bed and all this stuff. I no more believe that, and I believe, that the pigs can fly. I believe that, plus that strange Rose Garden thing with his father, who looks like some crazy Talibaner himself, and the mom and the president put his arm around. I mean, compare that to Terry.
Well, first of all, there was attention paid. And we know that when the Bergdahl was released, the White House tried to trumpet it as like some sort of,
Oh yeah.
a military-friendly gesture by an officer's best friend. And when you criticized it, then you were accused of being unpatriotic,
Yeah.
And they didn't quite get away with it because there was just too much evidence contrary. But, at least they got by. It didn't cost them, too much. And then, of course, they waited, 8 months or whatever, and then, we at least said, oh, yeah, he's a deserter. Well, that was a shock.
Yeah.
And in Terry's case, they didn't want any attention paid whatsoever, and they succeeded, essentially.
We're close on our time. Again, best guess, Jack, what happens to Bergdahl?
I think lots of sound and fury signifying nothing. I don't think he goes to prison. Because if you go to prison, you have to send him to prison for a long time. I mean, he's in a sense culpable for the death of several, military people.
Dr. Laken, what would you like to leave us with this time? I know we'll have you back. Again, go to the website, 710knus.com, order the book. That's the best you can do for Terry and for Jack. But to read this story, Terry, what would you like to leave us with this morning?
I think, Peter, that you're a gift to Colorado in pointing out to
I'll show you some
people
email.
that
I'll let you read some email.
I mean, you're getting the truth out about everything. There is so much going on with our government now. The IRS scandals, Benghazi. They get Bergdahl out and leave Sergeant Tamarusi rotting in Mexico. And,
sure, absolutely.
And we have supposedly 3 equal branches of government, and they're all. I don't know what to say about them. They can't keep each other in check, and they all have their own agendas. And I think our country's in peril, and stopping it at the election process is maybe not so good anymore if we have millions of illegals that are eligible to vote.
Sure. And more coming every day.
That's a tough time for our country, and people need to demand more of their leadership.
All right. Jack, thanks. Dr.
My pleasure.
Dr. Laken.
Anytime, Peter.
No, I'll never be able to thank Dr. Laken for everything he did, and we got this. So the beat goes on. Maybe sometime. Final question. Sometime, someplace, somewhere, Jack, is the truth ever coming out?
Yeah, I believe so, and I think thanks to people like Terry, it will. It may not come out immediately, but it won't come out while Obama is still president. But I think it'll come out, and I think that the people who, at some point in, if not in this life, maybe the next, the people who work to get it out will be recognized for their efforts.
Terry, you think you ever see the truth? A moment will come when they'll go, "We unjustly did this to Colonel Laken."
I just pray that we get our country back. That's my biggest hope.
As well. Thank you guys both. As always, Terry, thank you. Jack, thank you. I know we'll be talking really soon. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Thanks,
take care.
All right, man. 303-696-1971. The website is 710knus.com. You can order Terry's book, read it.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.